introduction. Can I start just with a few thank yous? Firstly to Andy and to Richard Burton, to Graham Morris, to Anas, who I can see hiding in the background, to so many of you who voluntarily give of your time to support Labour Friends of Palestine and the Middle East. In just a few short years, this organisation has established itself as a central and vital part of the debate and discussion that we have within the Labour Party about the issues of Israel and Palestine, and I'm grateful to you for the work that you do. It is also great to have the Ambassador here, and also Nabil Shath, our great friend who I last met in East Jerusalem. It is great to have you here at our Labour conference. I understand that Ed spoke at 7 o'clock this evening, which calls to mind the statement that was once made by Congressman Maurice Udall in the United States when he was asked, why does it take 4 days to nominate the Democratic candidate for President of the United States? And he said, because after 3 days everything has been said, but not everybody has said it. So in that spirit I will keep my remarks fairly short. The first and most obvious thing that I want to say to you tonight is that I regard statehood for the Palestinians not as a gift to be given, but a right to be recognised. Andy in his introduction mentioned the difference that we have taken in recent years from the Conservative-led coalition government here in Britain on the issue of Palestinian recognition at the United Nations, and as we've seen most recently over the summer, when we witnessed an inexplicable silence from the British Prime Minister, a willingness on the part of the Labour Party to speak up and to speak out. Even before we witnessed the ground invasion by Israeli forces into Gaza, I warned at the dispatch box in the House of Commons that a further ground invasion of Gaza would represent a disaster for both the people of Gaza and the people of Israel, and would incidentally also reflect a strategic error on the part of Israel. I say that as someone who is unyielding in my condemnation of Hamas rockets and the terrorization of civilian populations. But ultimately, when we witness more than 2,000 deaths and a repeat of a pattern of permanent blockade, permanent occupation, and periodic invasion, there can be no security for Israel and there can be no justice for the Palestinians. That is why we need to break that cycle and instead embrace a different future for the region. I know that these have been heartbreaking months for all of us with a care and a concern for the peoples of that region. And it is difficult to muster hope in the face of such unconscionable suffering. But ultimately, this represents a profound failure of politics. And given that politics has failed, it is politics that must offer us the way forward. That is why, even in these dark and difficult days, the advocacy of Labour Friends of Palestine and the Middle East for a two-state solution, I want to applaud and to recognise, because I know that hope is in short supply. It is why I want to advocate the continued engagement, not just of the British government, but critically of European governments, as we try to re-engender a sense of possibility and hope in a region that has witnessed so much suffering and so much despair. I recognise, even from the introduction, there are some who argue that different approaches should be taken in terms of catalysing the change that we want to see. But I assure you that in Ed Miliband and in myself, you have two politicians who are determined to play their part in bringing statehood to the Palestinians and security for all the peoples of the region. The only way that we can affect that change is through politics. And as surely as politics has failed, we are going to throw our efforts and our commitment into ensuring that politics succeeds. What does that in practical terms look like? We need to see, frankly, stronger leadership from the British government. It is not simply that they were silent in the face of the scale of suffering. It is not simply that they sat on their hands when they should have raised their voice and used their vote in the United Nations. It is that they should be using their influence within the European Union to make sure that Europe's voice is heard powerfully. It means means that when, in Secretary of State John Kerry, we have an interlocutor, a Secretary of State, willing to expend political capital in the service of a two-state solution, we should stand shoulder to shoulder with them, rather than simply position ourselves as spectator at someone else's endeavours. And we should continue to engage directly with the Palestinian Authority in Ramallah so that we can have a credible basis for negotiations, at the same time as we should oppose the illegal building of settlements, which continues to represent not just a change of fact on the ground, but what continues to represent a real and fundamental barrier to progress in securing that two-state solution. Illegal settlements are not only illegal, they are immoral, because they represent the building on other people's lands of what potentially represents enduring barriers to the peace that all of us should seek to secure in the years ahead. So let us be clear, there is much work to be done by an incoming Labour government in 2015. We are going to work hard to rekindle faith that a two-state solution is possible. We're going to have to work hard to try and secure the support of the European Union for active steps in the endeavour of that cause. And we are going to have to work hard here in the United Kingdom to continue to show our inviolable opposition to anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, to continue to make the case that community-to-community, person-to-person links are part of the solution to this crisis, not a problem to be dealt with on the way to a solution to this crisis. So let me end where I began, by thanking all of you in this room who have been such tireless advocates for the Palestinian cause. It is by the continued belief in the possibilities of politics, even in these dark and difficult days, that I believe ultimately we can prevail. So thank you for the work that you have done. Thank you for the service that you have given, and thank you for the work that together we must do in the months and years ahead. Thank you very much indeed.